Welcome, everybody, to another Microsoft Unboxed pod. This is episode 70. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody's hanging in, doing well out there today.
Yeah. Can't really say that there's too much going on. I mean, we had another tech event that wasn't one of the bigger ones, but had some big news with it. We got some news about Microsoft's gaming strategy kind of unfolding as well most of this week. So we're going to get you guys into it. For those of you who want a little more nuance as far as what we're going to talk about, we're diving into the Qualcomm or Snapdragon Qualcomm Summit 2025. So they finally talked about the new chips that everyone's kind of been highly anticipating. We'll get into the details of those and where that's going to lead Android and Windows going forward. We also have a little bit of controversy. Depends on whose side of the tech aisle you're on this one. But Microsoft has basically told the Israeli military that it no longer has access to its Azure cloud services for specific things. We'll get into the details of why they decided to finally pull the plug on that. We're also going to be talking about hardware. I think the Ally, or the highly anticipated handheld Asus ROG Ally and X Ally, I think is what it's called, or Ally X2, finally got pricing and pre-order dates revealed, and could be a shocker depending on how much you were expecting to pay for these bad boys. Microsoft is also going, just recently, I want to say maybe within the last 12 hours, also unveiled their handheld compatibility program on the heels of this device, because I think they want to start doing this with other devices going forward, kind of giving you a structure of like, hey, if you're going to have a handheld, these are the things you need in order to do so. Then we're going to be talking about some gaming going towards the end of the pod. Again, we have some Forza news, and we have our free weekend gameplay days, I think it's called, the highly voted for section that we have at the end of the pod. With that being said, I'm going to let my host jump in if he has any initial thoughts before we get into the news. How's the week's been going? What he'd like to talk about for a few seconds. I think your mic's off, my friend. But if you want to turn it back on, I'm sure people would love to hear you.
Yeah. It's been a good week for tech. We've seen a nice variety. We've got, as you said, we've got some gaming announcements, some Snapdragon announcements, and I think we've got some affordable handheld competition after looking at some of those prices and some of the release dates. I think the big thing is, can you get the product to the people on release day? I think that's going to be, where this falls.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. We'll get into that in a section. Let's get our medicine out of the way, shall we? As my grandparents used to say, you get the medicine, you get the vegetables out of the way, then you get to the fun stuff.
That's what mine used to say too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start off with the first things first, which is Microsoft announcing that it's restricting certain Azure AI services for units in the Israeli military defense. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with this, or been, potentially living under a rock, or maybe have a different opinion on this. Nevertheless, the facts are that Microsoft, I think I want to say on Wednesday, was it, or Thursday? Thursday, I think Thursday, yeah. They finally ceased and disabled specific subscriptions used by a unit within the Israeli military defense. We've been talking about this. People have been protesting about this as the war in Gaza has languished on for the last almost 2 years now. There's been a growing voice within Microsoft and externally, I think with some investors as well, asking Microsoft to rethink and reconsider its partnerships with the Israeli military. In specific, I believe the 8200 unit, if I'm not mistaken, as part of this Israeli defense unit, which basically used Azure services for mass surveillance. And then, whatever ensued following that, there have been lots of deaths associated with this unit. So it could be extrapolated that Microsoft's willingness to offer services has tangentially led to this, if that's what you want to kind of follow the train of thought. believe The Guardian had a reporting on this as of yesterday, and that's kind of what we based some of our reporting on. But Microsoft also had a statement that they released yesterday with Brad Smith, Microsoft president, emphasizing that the company does not provide technology to facilitate mass surveillance of civilians, and that the principle has been applied globally for over 2 decades. Which they're saying, hey, we don't abide by mass surveillance. Now, again, this is war in Gaza has been going on for 2 years. Now that Microsoft is taking its final, stance on it, begs the question of how much do they know and when do they know? But nevertheless, they've at least done something. As far as the details are concerned, what's not affected by the suspension is that does not impact Microsoft cybersecurity work with Israel or other Middle Eastern countries, including collaborations under the Abraham Accords. Most of Microsoft's contracts with the Israeli government remain intact. Like I said, there have been employee protests at several events. I think there was one at Microsoft Ignite, one at Microsoft Build. Most notably, there have been some other emails that have been floated internally. Employees have been fired for their protests or the way of their protests, not necessarily their actual protests. Depends on, again, how you view it politically. The data migration following the initial reports that the Israeli military reportedly moved up to 8 terabytes of surveillance data off of Azure after the suspension, with plans to transfer to Amazon Web Services. So Jeff Bezos, well, I guess we can't even say Bezos anymore. Who's the guy who runs it now? Amazon's?
I don't even know, but I know who to ask. Our good friend Copilot down here. We'll do this. We're
live. We're doing it live.
And in color.
Jazzy is his name or something like that. I forget his last name.
All right.
Nevertheless, Amazon has a new CEO who does the day-to-day, so you can't really point the finger at Bezos. But nevertheless, he's going to have to see where he stands on this. An ongoing review, Microsoft's investigation is still underway and further actions may follow. The company acknowledged that external reporting provided critical information it could not access due to customer privacy constraints. Like I said, investors are also questioning why Microsoft was involved in this. As you're looking that up, just give me your thoughts on Microsoft finally saying, hey, enough's enough with the mass surveillance and whatever ensued following that.
Microsoft just needs to get out of this. I mean, I never thought I would see the day that technology would be a arguing point or even a point of discussion of wars, political conflicts, social conflicts, etc. I think when Microsoft picks a side, it falls down to the companies that support Microsoft, their customers. It falls down to even the consumers at some level. When you're going to buy a Microsoft service and Microsoft does this, so you must support what they're doing. And it's the case for any company, not just Microsoft. It's, just happens to be Microsoft we're talking about. So, I get that Microsoft doesn't want it used. But I think if you were to start looking around, this is what Microsoft and other companies are aware of. I would say that this technology and this AI technology is used on a lot of other areas that might make people feel uncomfortable. This is just what's in the news. But Microsoft needs to get out of it, or we need to come up with some type of regulation that says, AI will not be used for, or if AI is used for, and what the stipulations are, because AI is just getting started. We're already seeing these problems. As AI advances, we're going to see more problems, and it could actually turn to bigger issues that we don't want to talk about, with people pitting one AI against another. And then how do you control that at that point? When you tick somebody off, or, and they decide, well, we don't like what you're doing with your AI and let's go to war and talk about it. That's not a place I want to go. I don't think that's a place anybody wants to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I wrote in my piece that Microsoft will need to define prohibited surveillance uses with precise enforceable criteria. Obviously, publish transparent enforcement processes and provisioning decisions that are auditable, so people can go in. But I think at the end of the day, all fancy words aside, we need to have liability legislation, and that will, I think, force the companies to come to the table and say, all right, if we're going to do this, if you're going to hold us liable for some of the ways these things are used, again, mass surveillance is mass surveillance. Microsoft is, they're not exclusive to this. Every company does it. We're surveilled currently here in the US by, cloud providers and services ranging from IBM to Salesforce to Microsoft to Google. They all are keeping an eye on what we do. But I think at the end of the day, none of them are held liable. They can all just say, hey, we provide the services and whatever ensues. But when it comes specifically to stuff like the genocide in Gaza, when these things are led to, potentially the loss of life, at some point, I think there should be regulation to say, hey, you are now being held accountable. You should have either had an independent auditor come in and say, like, maybe if, you guys are driven by your investors, your businesses, you went out and got the contract. And then an independent auditor could have came in and said, hey, 6 months into this, like, hey, they're using it to, hunt down, track, imprison, murder civilians in another country. You may want to get out of this. You can then say, hey, we made the decision to continue doing it, or we didn't make the decision to continue doing it, but here's the report for it, and here's the report for the government in case they need to come after that. Again, I don't think any company is going to try and handcuff themselves initially, but if we start to say you're held liable for it, you can better believe that they're going to start saying, all right, well, we don't want to lose any potential money. Here's the best way to regulate us, we think. And so far, we don't have anybody in our legislative body, or very few people in our legislative body forcing to do that. So I'm going to kind of button this up by saying, good on them for finally realizing this. Some would argue it's 8, 9, 10, 12 months too late, but nevertheless, it's being done. We'll see where Amazon goes when the Israeli military takes their 8 terabytes of surveillance data and puts it on AWS, and hopefully they do it with better restrictions, or maybe at some point they say you can't sit here either. But we will keep you guys up to date on the ongoing investigations, what Microsoft concludes, and where they move going forward. The next thing we got is Microsoft's AI marketplace. That was one you put on the docket. I'm gonna let you run with this one.
Well, excuse me, my OneNote closed. Let me get that back open.
Sure. I can give our listeners a brief intro into this because I did write on this one as well. But Microsoft is basically launching an AI marketplace for publishers. Now they had one for consumers. We can go to the Microsoft store and be like, hey, I want to try this AI model. I want to try that AI model. But this is for publishers. The biggest thing about this news, do you want to give it to them now that your OneNote's up, or do you want me to?
All right. I got my OneNote up. Sorry about that, folks. It just decided to up and close down on me. So I'm scrolling down to where I got this headline for you folks. Let's see. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. Microsoft is starting something new. Well, if you think about it, it's really not all that new. It's an initiative to pay publishers for AI content or AI products for consumers, starting with the Copilot platform. This was reported, and this was something that you posted. This was reported by Axios, the company in talks with select U.S. publishers to launch a first-of-its-kind AI marketplace with a structured licensing system where publishers can be compensated for the editorial material used to train power AI generative models. So, as you mentioned, there's a catch. The offer comes after the foundational models behind Copilot and other AI systems were already trained on vast swaths of data publicly available and internet content. The web news articles, blogs, forums, and documentation are scraped in bulk and very capable for Microsoft to go ahead and monetize. So I want to just talk about this for just a second. I think we have overused the term marketplace. And I think this slides back to the Steve Jobs era. He opened the Apple store. Then after that, everybody wanted a store. We have the Google Play Store. We have the Apple Store. We had iTunes. We had, the movie stores. We have the Xbox store that we may or may not see one day, but everybody has a store. And I think we're on this path that everybody goes to a store to buy what they're looking for now. There may be a good side to that. People don't know what AI can do, and I've said this before, they have no idea. They have absolutely no idea. So being able to create a store and say, look, go here for things that people have created that you may be able to use in your home, your business, your daily life, etc., to buy, use in your business. But here's a license for it. You're going to pay for it. I would assume there would be updates like in our Windows Store, Android, or Apple at that point. So, not a bad thing. I think it's going to bring attention to AI and a place for people to drop their projects and say, look, pay me a few bucks and look what you can do. I don't see a negative side to this other than what you mentioned, that the data is already been scraped. Everybody's got the data at this point. I don't think there's new data to get. I can tell you from being somebody that works in the web world, the AI bots are crawling every second. I have seen it with my own two eyes. They are very aggressive. Your data is being scraped. I'm sorry. It is what it is. And now we're going to start seeing apps built and possibly put into this app store for you to purchase. I don't think it's just another app store in my book. Now, will I use it? Maybe. I think it's a good place for people to showcase their work. I mean, Adobe Behance, where people can get on there and, publish their creations and people can buy them, etc. That's kind of what it kind of reminds me of. So I don't think it's a total bad thing. I think there's a place for it. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's going to be easy for people to go and kind of get this aligned or whatnot. I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me getting older. And again, you can take this with an old grain of salt, so to speak. I think we've become, I don't know, lazier or less interesting as a people because the destination has become a goal versus the journey being the lesson necessarily. And I say that by, and that comes with, just the way our society is built, where we have these, boxed store destinations. Like you can go to a Target and know that there's going to be a Starbucks somewhere near, and perhaps a Subway. And, there's these conveniences that are all built into these stores. You just go there and there's like 5 or 6 things you can always count on whenever you see one big store. And I think, this applies to tech as well. When you go to a store, you can just get all the apps there. There used to be a time where we used to have to venture out into the internet to find something. And that venture, that journey made your conversations, your explanations that much more interesting and thoughtful. Like you had to put some thought behind it. Hey, if I'm going to use this AI model and I found it, I had to go, from one website to another website to a blog to another link, and that's where I found it. When you explain that use of the AI to somebody, you knew what you were talking about because you took the time to search it out, to find it, trial and error, and then you can go back and tell somebody, hey, this is what I used it for specifically, and this is why I did it. That's what I'm saying for this. Like, it's great that, they're going to put all AI there, but none of us really know what to do with any of it. And without any journey, without any exploration, without any trial and error, so to speak, to find it the first time, we can't even talk about it amongst ourselves. We can kind of show like, hey, I made an Apple talk. It's like, well, but why did you do it? How did you get there? What was the purpose of it? We're losing that when we put everything in stores. So again, maybe I'm just getting old. Maybe I'm not a big fan of just consolidating everything all the time, which is what our societies need to be doing. And we seem to be losing out as a people when that happens. So, I mean, good on Microsoft. It's late. And once again, just like we referenced the previous story, You've trained the foundational models on this. Now you're ready to pay people going forward. And I don't even know what that compensation is going to be like, but you've kind of stolen everything. And now you're saying, all right, moving forward, here's a couple cents that we're willing to, give you guys some change on if someone in our store happens to scrape some of your information. So it's a little insurance policy. Hopefully it forces everyone else to start doing this. So going forward after, 2025, you start getting compensated for new articles you write or songs you create or art that you draw. Unfortunately for the people in 2024 going backwards, that's perhaps not the case. Or maybe you'll have a case now. You can go to court and say, hey, now that they're starting to pay people going forward, maybe they should think about paying people going backwards. So we'll keep you guys updated on how the store develops, if it stays in place. Again, keep in mind that OpenAI also has a consumer-facing version of this, and I think other AI publishers like GitHub, so they also have these other consumer-facing ones where consumers can go in and purchase an AI model and use it for something else. The backside of this is, again, the publishers going in and being able to kind of get compensated for it in a different aspect. So that being said, our next story is the roundup of Snapdragon. All these chips that are going to be powering all this AI theft and consolidation. Snapdragon had a big event today, or this week. I think it started Monday in Hawaii. We were not invited. Snapdragon, I'm looking at you. I would love to go next time. But it was the Snapdragon Summit 2025. And that's where they unveiled and rolled out some highly anticipated chips. I think, you and I personally were looking forward to what they do in Windows on ARM, but they also rolled out, I believe, their, what is it called? Make sure I get it right because they are different things. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chipset. So this is going to be the next chip. And I believe when you buy a Samsung phone or I guess not Pixel, but I guess mostly Samsung and maybe Motorola, if that's still around or whatever. Any other type of Android phone, maybe overseas, will have these chips, and they're bringing a lot. Let me see if I can get some of the details for you. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 is the latest mobile SoC. And it's built off of TSMC's advanced, 3 nanometer processor node. So it's smaller, which is going to be smaller. Apparently is always better when it comes to mobile. Improved power efficiency and performance. It has 2 prime cores clocked at about 4.6 gigahertz, 6 performance cores at 3.6 gigahertz, and a 12 megabyte cache per cluster, enabling faster multitasking and responsiveness. Again, the big leap this year for both the desktop chip and the mobile chip is the GPU performance. Qualcomm talked it up a lot. They boosted it, trying to make it ideal for gaming. And then there's been an upgrade to the neural processing unit, the NPUs, which are going to be the things that are powering a lot of the AI stuff in the background and probably on device is what they were referencing. So there's a bit of security there for you. Have all been kind of boosted, and we'll be powering some new behavior UIs within Android as well. Some of the flagship devices that'll be using it starting in 2026, I believe, is Xiaomi, OnePlus, Honor, Motorola, and like I said, I don't know if Samsung will. I think they were talking about like, oh, we're going to front row at Exynos again. Who knows if they decide maybe just in the US they'll use Qualcomm. And then there was the Snapdragon X Elite 2, and let's briefly talk about this and then get David's opinion on this. That's the ARM processor. That's our, I believe the marketing term is Windows on Snapdragon or Snapdragon. Yeah, Windows on Snapdragon. But we colloquially call it Windows on ARM. This is the chip that's been powering most of those devices. This is the X Elite 2. That's powered by a 3rd gen Orion CPU, which Qualcomm estimates up to about 70% faster performance. It's supposed to, I think the GPU performance is about 2.3 times better per wattage than the original one. So we should be getting, content creator levels of performance from this while, again, maintaining some of these devices, I believe, still run with fans. So maybe it's just quieter because I even know the M2 runs with the fan, but it's relatively quiet, relatively cool for the most part. Depends on what's being used. And again, we're getting more native written apps, which will, all combined lead to a cooler, longer lasting device. Again, they also pack an NPU. This time it's up to 80 tops. I think last time was 45. So they've nearly doubled that. And so again, a lot of the AI processes, which I think, we've talked about in subsequent Windows Insider releases, a lot of AI stuff is being finally used on that CPU. I think a lot of people have been testing it, and this, the NPU or whatever has been negligible, but now we'll start to see those numbers go up while the CPU does fewer things, which means, again, less fan noise. The chip is designed to anchor the next wave of Copilot Plus PCs and AI native laptops. Again, we probably will start seeing those at the first quarter of 2026. But I mean, they kept comparing it to the M series. Now, maybe if they can even get M4 levels, and I'm not saying they need to keep up with the M5 because nobody knows what that's going to do, but M4 has been pretty impressive for Apple users. If they can match that, which they say they could, we could be in for pretty good 2026 Windows on ARM. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll keep this as short as I can with only repeating hopefully one thing. I am a big ARM supporter ever since we got our first review unit to check out when the Snapdragons first came out. It got off to a rough start with some software compatibility issues, but I think most of that is dried up, and things have gotten a lot more stable and a lot more apps are available. But on to the X2. As a broad chip, I see this as competition, and I think that's a great thing. We don't know what the numbers are going to be. As you mentioned, GPU is a good, thing that they're going for here to increase, because the creators do want access to these thin and light laptops that are capable of rendering a video or capable of handling some of the Adobe plugins, and being able to do that on the go is very important. Gamers also want it. Streamers also want it. People that can travel now with these Wi-Fi cameras and just slap their Snapdragon laptop down on the table and hook everything up and be able to, I see a lot of baseball. I live out in the country. I see a lot of baseball in the area, and I see people, putting up the little cameras, wanting to stream games out to social media. And, they're bringing around all these power bricks and all the horses, generators and all the horses to run everything. So if you can get the X2 Elite to be power efficient and a creator's friend as far as horsepower and what it's capable of doing, then what does Apple do in this situation? That's something I'd like, to think about. What does Apple do in this situation? They're on the M train. So Snapdragon is on the X train, so we got the M train and the X train. We're supposedly going to get the M5 coming up, the X2's coming up on the Snapdragon side. And then just to throw a complete different wrench into it, what does AMD and Intel do at this point? Intel, I'm kind of going to push to the side of the table. I'm sorry. I have a review unit behind me that I'm working on. They're just not here yet. They're just not here. Now, the AMD side of things, that AI 395 chip that they have that's in the Z13 and it's in some mini computers that's out there, that gives you the GPU performance of a 4060, a 4070, and it's reasonable power efficient. I would love to see the Snapdragon and AMD competition heat up, because that's only good for us. Intel will eventually join the party one day. They're just not here yet. So I want to put a button on this. I want a Snapdragon X2 Elite laptop, desktop in my hands so I can check it out.
Yeah, no, me too. I think, again, to your question about AMD and Intel, Intel was recently reported trying to get buy-in from Apple. I think I've mentioned this in social media, snarkily saying, but why? There was a reason why they got a divorce, and it seems like the divorcee is coming back and saying, hey, give me a second chance. I could be better. I don't know what Intel expects from Apple as far as buy-in. I don't know why Apple would invested in. There's a reason, like I said, they left, and it was mostly due to the power consumption and late deliveries by Intel. And there's nothing that has in recent months or since Apple's really left them that's proven that they've changed any of that. So we will see how they plan to maintain or keep up in this very fast-paced, chip world. As far as the computers themselves, adding this much power, again, it is yet to be seen how well they manage to heat and stuff like that. But if everything that they've said since the keynote happens to pan out like it did the first time around, a lot of stuff is going to be on device, and all that does really is offer more features for the buyer. Instead of we used to have to buy an Intel PC and then buy a webcam that had special software on it as well, and then have to compete, have to put up with Intel drivers, whatever the PC manufacturer's drivers were and software, and then third-party software and updates and drivers as well. So again, if you're just trying to do, host, to your point, stream live or host something out in there, you have to, deal with all of that before you even got to recording. Say, all right, are the drivers updated? Software updated? Is it not going to crash during this? When you start to build that into the device itself, those are fewer barriers of entry. You can just start running it then and there, and fewer drivers for a lot of people. So that's a plus, I think. That's one of the things that isn't being talked about. Latency is another thing. With 80 tops of NPU power, a lot of these things don't need to call back to the cloud to manage. So if you're doing Excel reports and you start to use Copilot with it, the time between when you click after your prompts, you hit enter, to when you get an answer should be shorter. And again, they can be done on device, which means you don't need a connection. To your point of being in the rural areas, if someone wants to, still do that same Excel report, and they don't have, they don't want a hotspot from their phone, or maybe they don't have a data plan that does that, they can still get that done on device. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to these devices. We will see what they have in the start of 2026. And again, that's just for computers, because we were very fond of computers. There was a lot more reporting. I suggest you guys go read at our website about what the 8 Elite Gen does, and it has a lot to do with computational processing, photographs, and audio. A lot of audio processing and noise cancellation, fidelity for music and things like that. So all of that gets boosted, should be boosted on these new devices starting in 2026. Let's move on to some more fun things, more hardware related. We have the ROG X Ally, or Xbox Ally, and then the ROG Xbox Ally 2. Is that what it's called? Or they're both two?
Let me pull this up just to make sure that we've got the names correct here.
I think we got it. Here we go. ROG Xbox Ally and ROG Xbox Ally 2. Yes.
Because it's always been a little bit confusing to me. I've got the
ROG Ally. There we go. 2. And then the other one's the Xbox Ally 2.
Yeah, you got it.
And they are now available for pre-order. They will be shipping, I believe, October 16th, 2025, this year. The ROG X, or the ROG Ally itself, the base model is $599. Comes with an AMD Ryzen Z2A processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of solid storage capacity, 7-inch full HD 120 hertz display screen with a 60 watt-hour battery. The one that everyone else has been, reporting about and talking about is the beefier ROG Xbox Ally 2. And that'll be coming in at a hair under $1,000, $999 or $999. You give it some tax, you're over $1,000. That comes with an AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme processor. So it's boosted and clocked. 24 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. It has the same 7-inch full HD 120 hertz display, and a larger 80 watt-hour battery for a little bit more gaming performance. Both devices will have a platform experience that combines ASUS hardware, and the Xbox handheld new update, the new gaming experience from the Xbox app. And they are streamlined for this new Xbox interface. Some of the accessories include an optional peripherals like a 2 terabyte SanDisk micro SD. So you can, if you bought the 512 gigabyte one, I would suggest maybe tacking on this 2 terabyte micro SD. Just pop it in there, keep it in there. And there you got yourself almost 2.5 terabytes worth of storage for all these games. A Seagate FireCuda SD, which is again up to 4 terabytes that you can also attach to this, and a 2-in-1 carrying case, or some of the ones that were listed early on. I'm sure there'll be more after this is launched, so you may just want to wait, see what Amazon has for you. But that's kind of some of the early news. What are your thoughts on this new device?
I'm going to approach this from two angles.
I know we talked about this last night.
Let's go with the positive angle first.
Okay.
There's the deal with Lenovo, and there's the shipping. And if you read Reddit, you read forums, you've seen that some of the pre-orders are being canceled due to demand of product, and you've seen people complaining about the $1,300 price tag for the upper end model. And this is for the Lenovo Legion Go 2, not the Ally. So when I saw the pre-orders hit last night and I saw this come out, I immediately wanted to make sure the prices had not changed. Because tariffs and everything going on in the world, it was possible that prices could change. The upper end model, as you mentioned, is $999. I think that's where most people are going to go. But you look at that $999 price, you see how it compares with the Asus Ally. It's right there. It's in the ballpark. So you've got an Xbox branded device for $999. Lenovo's going to have to struggle through their $1,300 price when this, with the Xbox name, the Xbox branding, is $999. I don't see $300 to $400 difference in Lenovo's favor here. But now, the question becomes, can Asus and Xbox take their pre-orders, not have the fiasco that Lenovo has had, unfortunately, and get these pre-orders processed and get them in gamers' hands right on release day like they're claiming? If not, then they're kind of both in the same boat, and it becomes a battle of price at that point. But I think for this to survive, Microsoft has got to kick it in gear on the software side. They've started with the launcher that we talked about last week that combines and aggregates all your gaming libraries together. But Xbox needs this to be a pick up and play device. They need to get it in teenagers' hands, kids' hands, that they come home from school or they're, on the long road trip this Christmas to grandmother's house or wherever it is they go, where you just pick this thing up and it plays. No passing it to the front seat for mom and dad. Hey, my game won't load, Dad, and I got this error and I don't know why. Because you do that a few times, the kids are going to start putting it down. You're going to start seeing these things on Facebook Marketplace. That's just what's going to happen. So if Xbox can keep this price against their competition, which in my mind right now is Lenovo. There's others out there, but in my mind, Lenovo is their biggest competition. If they can keep the price, the Windows team or Xbox team, whoever is going to keep this user-friendly, can work together and keep it in gear. You've got a product here that will sell. You've got a product that will do well. But this, to me, to put a button on it, is the tipping point Phil Spencer's play anywhere, play on anything philosophy. If this fails, his whole play anywhere philosophy kind of, you better be ready to retool that. And you've spent at least 4 or 5 years talking play anywhere. So I want to see the best for this. I want gamers to see the best for this. Whether Lenovo makes it or Asus makes it or Xbox brands it, however this plays out, I want to see handhelds work for gamers.
Yeah, no, I agree. My view on this is that one, the 599 is I think a good starting point. I think most of these should
Yep.
be priced at that, especially if you're trying to convert people over to from the console, which I think the console will be dying. Um, what I'm trying to understand is the jump to almost $1,000, just because it has the Microsoft branding, even though it'll have the same software. Uh, it's again, it is beefier. I will give them that, but is it $1,000 beefier? I mean, this thing still isn't a console, and it's not quite a computer. So I think again, out of the gate, they need to. And again, who knows? Maybe we'll get some deals like they do Samsung phones. Samsung phones come out at $1,700, $2,000. You get them with master trade-ins. A month and a half later, they're down to $999 or whatever. So who knows? Maybe this is the initial gambit. They're saying, all right, let's see the elasticity of this market and let's adjust accordingly. Maybe the Xbox version will come down to $799 while the base is down to $499 or whatever. But yeah, I have some friends who are not big techies that are actually very interested in this device. And again, I think they also see the writing on the wall about where gaming is going as far as being a little more flexible than the console itself. So as far as Lenovo, they are in their own boat. They can price however they want to because I think this is subsidized. They're more PCs and they're just kind of testing the water. This isn't their bread and butter. Same thing probably for Asus as well. Again, these are, they're PC makers. They are trying out this market. This isn't like Nintendo where this is like their make or break. But it would be nice if they, took it a little more seriously and was like, all right, we need to price competitively versus, throwing a device out there that's subsidized by our PC efforts. With that being said, I'm going to hold off personally. And that's only because I had the privilege of already owning one of these older versions of these things, and I understand where the capability and where the market's at, and I can hold off on it currently. We'll see what the reviews are like as far as heat, noise, battery life, and see whether or not it's worth it. And I suggest everyone else do the same. Just take it easy. Take it, enjoy what you currently have for as long as you can, and then make the move. That being said, we also want to talk briefly about the handheld compatibility program that Microsoft just announced last night. And again, this is on the heels of the announcement of the handheld ROG Ally. I believe Microsoft announced the program to ensure thousands of Windows games run smoothly on the portable devices. There are 2 new badges for clarity. Games will now carry either a handheld optimized badge for plug and play, controller support, and legibility, or mostly compatible for titles that may need minor tweaks. So this is kind of like what they did previously with the touch badges that they put on the Xbox games that can be played on your phone or played with touch. There's a little icon that showed like, hey, there's a finger, so you can play it on your phone if you need to, if you're doing some cloud streaming. Or these things are only made for consoles. They had a little console thing on there. So I believe this is going to be similar to that, saying, hey, if you're looking for handheld, and again, the reason why they do this is because everyone maps their handhelds differently. Not everything is built to the Xbox grade of handhelds. Some people map it to a PlayStation controller. Some people map it to keyboard shortcuts. So at least you'll know that going in, whether or not this was designed to be played as is from an Xbox controller's standpoint. Again, why it matters is that, again, most PC games are built for keyboards, mice, and big screens. The program helps bridge the gap for handheld users by spotlighting games that are controller-friendly and visually tuned for smaller displays. That's the other thing, too, is that when you try and do the high fidelity on these 7-inch screens, everything gets super tiny. You don't necessarily want that. You do want the fidelity, but you don't. Not everyone has 2200 vision. So the other thing is offers a little more flexibility for the Windows ecosystem. So you start to bring some of that, if you've had a ton of games on Steam or you have a ton of games saved on PC, over to your handhelds, and your library is instantly filled without even having to necessarily get a Game Pass subscription or whatnot. So I'm all for it. What are your thoughts on that before we move on to our last story?
I'm all for it. I'm kind of with you here. I think, the more accessible we make these things and the more friendly we make them, the better off we are. Because I will agree, your keyboard mapping comment comes to mind there. Not everybody maps the same. And I think the more, I'm not sure the term I'm looking for here, the more compatible, let's use compatible. The more compatible you make these things to what people want, their preferences. For example, when a PC game such as Delta Force, when it first came out to PC, it was keyboard support only. I would say they turned away 30 to 40% of people that were interested, because when I was reading the forums, because I was interested myself, people were bashing them because they had no controller support at that time. They have controller support now. In fact, it's an Xbox title now. So you got to come out of gate with anything in gaming that supports people's wishes, that is customizable.
Yeah. And again, I think these are all good moves. Slow and steady seems to be the course right now for Xbox. They're still kind of in a weird position as far as the transition's going.
Mm-hmm.
People are still associating Xbox with the console, and the console's not doing very well, but they're also associating it with Game Pass, and Game Pass is doing well. So when they can finally move people over to Game Pass plus handheld devices, I think they'll be in a much better position. Speaking of games, we have the Forza story. That was one you brought up. I'm gonna let you run with that one.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and throw this out there because it was a quickie, so to speak, to kind of get it out there for folks. But Forza, let me make sure I get this right. Forza Horizon, I keep trying to say motorsport. Forza Horizon 6 will be hitting the console sometime in 2026. Microsoft and Playground Games are coming together for this. There will be, let me just go ahead and get it out. There will be a PlayStation offering later after launch. Turn 10 Studios is working with Playground Games to make that happen. So you PlayStation folks may be getting another Microsoft exclusive title over there. This version of Forza Horizon 6 is set in Japan, which is one of the highest requested places for Forza Horizon to go. So you'll be able to race up and down the streets of Japan. Don't have a whole lot about the game. You can check out our website and see the trailer. That's really all that's out there. Well, there was not even any screenshots in the press release that came out yesterday. But Forza Horizon 6 will continue, and we will see Forza Horizon 6 on streets of Japan sometime in 2026.
All right. With that being said, I think we can start wrapping this up. We got some gameplay days. I think we wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, let me scroll down to where our gameplay days are, folks, and we will have a little chat here. Let's see. I believe we had 6 this week. So let's see. What were those 6? Let me get this up on my screen. Give me just 1 second. There we go. As I mentioned on the website, we had 6 titles. Make sure I can count here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 6. We have 6 titles this week. We have something a little special. The Diablo 4 is an extended title. You can get that up to September 30th of this month. So feel free when you pick up the Diablo free play day offering. You've got that one a little longer. We have PGA 2K25, we have Rematch, we have Bassmaster Fishing, we have Trailmakers, and we have, what is the one I'm leaving out here?
The Dungeons or something?
Yeah, Dungeons 3. Yep, it was Dungeons 3. Sorry about that, folks. And my reminder to you folks is the same every week. They put one heck of a sale usually on these free play titles. Make sure you're picking up these free play titles during the weekend. The deals are sometimes rather impressive. Like, for example, let me just give you one. PGA Tour 2K25 is $41.99. That's generally a $70 game. Rematch is $23.99. Trailmakers is just $8.99. Bassmaster Fishing $39.99. And Diablo is down to just $22.49. And you're getting that extended trial until September 30th on that one. That one also, let me throw this in there, does not require an Xbox membership. So if you just want to play some Diablo, you can jump right in. How do you find these? Xbox.com. You can get on your console, navigate to your account, navigate down to your membership, navigate over to free play days. You'll see these listed. Again, Microsoft, Xbox Store. While we're on this topic of stores and Microsoft, let's do something to the Xbox Store. Let's add free play days over on the left or on the top where you're scrolling through your categories. Make this a little easier for people to find.
Yeah. With that being said, where can people find you if they want to talk more about gaming this weekend with you?
David PHA 1978. That is over on the Blue Sky. I do browse the Twitters once in a while because we do have some folks that we follow that post things and tweet things, but I really don't say much on Twitter. So please find me on Blue Sky. Maybe we can get into some gaming this weekend here in Eastern U.S. It's going to start raining later this afternoon, and we've got some type of tropical thing. That's what I'm calling it for now because that's what the weather folks are calling it. We've got some type of tropical thing that is forming that is going to be here Monday or Tuesday. So looks like we've got a week of rain. So I'll be doing some gaming. Hunt me down, say hello. Be glad to game with some of you folks.
Yeah, you can find me at Happy Hulk at Blue Sky as well. I will try and get some gaming done this weekend. Can't promise anything because I do have two small kids that like to vacuum all my time up. So we'll see if I can get away from them, do some gaming. But I do have some writing to do this weekend as well. I got some reviews that I owe you guys. I got some monitors to review, some docks to review, some headphones to review. So I'm going to get all that hopefully out to you guys over the subsequent days of next week. So look out for some reviews if you guys are looking to, start your Christmas buying guides early. We'll have some of those on the website as well. Some things that we recommend, some things that are cheap to get, some things that can just kind of fill out your tech environment and ecosystem. We hope you guys had some fun with us, got a little educated on some things. If you have any more questions or anything like that, reach out to us either in the comments of this video, on the comments on articles, or on social media. Other than that, go out and have some fun today, touch some grass, and go do something you enjoy. Again, if it's cooking, listening to music, playing in a pond, not in Florida because there's nothing but alligators in there, but if in another body of water somewhere else that's safe, go do that as well. We hope you guys join us next week. Take care.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Again, no playing in the alligator pond of Florida.
No, nobody's in water unless it's a pool. And even then, check the bottom of it. See you guys next week.